Hello, my name's Dale, the librarian. That's not Dale, the librarian. My name's Dale Larson, but I am the librarian for social work, sociology, and comm. When we look at clergy child abuse, if you Google it, there's like a few things. There's like the Catholic Church most famously, because they have that moment um, where patrons or members of the church can confess to a pastor, and then, or not a pastor, who would it be? Catholic priests, nuns, and popes. Um, and then they have privileged information. And do you keep it? Is there like a priest client privilege or that sort of a thing? Or if that's broken, is there like a controversy? And so this one might be pretty good. I just searched up clergy child abuse, but the more background information we get, the better. So it seems like the Catholics are the main focus of bills like this because there is an active role of confession. But we can't um, take away other religions that might be part of that. So I talked with a religion librarian, and they were talking about how clergy is typically talking about like Abrahamic or Christian specific religions. So probably the Catholic Church would be on the top of that. But then you can go into other ones where it's not called a priest, it's called a pastor. And oftentimes they're called clergy, but it depends on where you go. So if you go to New York, you might have like a Jewish community. If you go to Michigan, you might have an Arabic and Islamic community. And it depends on where you're writing this policy. So it might be worthwhile figuring out if there's something specific to a population. And obviously, here in Utah, there'd be a strong LDS population. And so how do we include those? Well, let me show you. So if you go to the library, you can type in clergy and mandatory reporting, and it helps if you spell mandatory correctly, which I didn't. If you search for that, you might find a few things. And so this is a good way, I would say, just to get yourself comfortable with some of the ideas of what's being written about. Write down keywords, and that's exactly what I did. So I've de-identified all this information, but what I was trying to do is think of like, well, what are they talking about? They're talking about reporting, or there's this phrase that you gave to me. There's like the problem, and is reporting like mitigating the problem? And there's all sorts of different things that we could talk about. So as you come up with keywords, write them down somewhere. That's really helpful. So from the library, though, we can look in the catalog, and that's okay. But since we have a more focused keyword set, we can go into specific databases. And you can go under like psychology, or you could go under social work, sociology. Whatever your favorite databases are would be a good place to go. I have a list that I have made. So let's go there. And this isn't the best things, it's just my suggested list. But if you go to the research guides link and type in social work, you'll find my guide. And I'm going fast, so I apologize if you have to go back or hit pause. The one that is most up to date right now is PhD and master's help. So the first thing that we just did is validating keywords. If you just go and click clergy child abuse, you can see what's the rhetoric, what are the words. Oh, here's the name for it, clergy penitent privilege. There's another one. And it might not be a great keyword, but if you write them down as you go, you find that you might get a better handle on validating your own ideas. Oh, scandal, I didn't think about that. So that's the first thing we did, was we validated keywords. If you want to, so we just did library catalog, but there's also like journalists tools like CQ Researcher. This is a tool that was put together about 100 years ago for reporters to use. So they were working in political arenas where they would only get one side of the story. So these are reports, well researched, they're not scholarly. Let's do clergy and abuse. And let's see if we can get more written about this. It's searching. This is another place to look for keywords. And it's not working. So take a look in this data. Oh, there we go. Oh, the Boy Scouts. I forgot about the Boy Scouts. They have folded dramatically under the pressure of sex abuse lawsuits. Is there anything in clergy? Maybe there isn't. Oh yeah, here we go. Future of class. So here's a mention of it. Future of the Catholic Church. And here we have like Vatican. So so maybe we wanted to look at it from the top down level. So we have like the individual priests, but maybe we should be looking at like the what do you call it, the administrative side of things. So that's a place to cruise through. Nexus Uni, let's go back to that one. That one has things of law. US News Stream, this is newspapers in the United States. This is where we could look up incidences. Oh, look at that, clergy on child abuse. Let's do and mandatory reporting. So a lot of these databases, you have to put keywords. If it's more than one word, you have to stick them in quotes, so to stick them together. And you have to separate each concept with an AND, an and. If you don't like that, you can go into advanced search and then just do a row for each one. So this is newspapers in the United States. Let's see if we can find stuff on mandatory reporting. Ooh, look at that. LDS bishops and other clergy. Oh, this is from the Salt Lake Tribune not too long ago. So here we're talking about, and here's Governor Cox. Is it that Utah is the center of this mandatory reporting idea? How you can find out is you can go to publication title, and let's see who's talking about it the most. Salt Lake Tribune, there's 12, so we're in the top 10. So it looks like Boston Globe, and this might be a wire. This is kind of national news. There's another wire. So a wire is like a news distribution that people pick up. So yeah, Boston, New York, Iowa, and Salt Lake. And if you wanted to narrow down to that way, you could do it that way. These aren't scholarly, but they will give you the jargon that we were looking for, like that mandatory reporting seems to be a good one. So that was US Newsstream. You can also go out to the open web and you can search for this specific bill. I'm giving you a lot of information, so let me know if you want to meet instead. But here you can see this is like local news. It's the same thing that we just saw, except this might be television stations. So you could type in Utah, and then all of a sudden there's all sorts of opinion pieces. So there's stgeorgeutah.com, there's the Tribune, there's Fox News, Deseret News, KSL News, Channel 2 News, Channel 4 News. You get the idea. Oh, and look at this. le.utah.gov with the Freedom of Information standards in the United States. We're typically required to publish bills that are being considered. It's interesting that that one doesn't show up. I'll show you another way around that. So just so you know, you can cruise around gathering more information about what you're looking for. Once you get some of those confident keywords, and I think we're pretty good, then you can go into the discipline-specific research where they will have the peer-reviewed articles that you're required to have. So the best ones that I recommend, sociological abstracts, that looks at public policy in societies and countries around the world. This one you might try religious, you might try the names of clergy, like priest, pastor, that sort of a thing. But this one is really good. Social science premiums is pretty good. It's kind of all over the place, and it's not as policy-based as sociological abstracts. PAIS is also policy-based, So again, when you wanted to talk to a legislator, these would be really good. There is also PsycInfo that social work people adore because it looks at psychology, group psychology, and things that could affect outcomes. Let's take a look in that one. I'll show you the advanced search. So we have clergy or, oh, look at that. It even suggests clergy or pastor or minister or priest or reverend or chaplain. They misspelled it, chapin, maybe it's French. When you put an or in between, it says, okay, find at least one instance of this concept that I'm putting in. And then we could do child or children. And then, look at all these other iterations of it. I'll just do child or children. And abuse. And here's another one. So neglect isn't the issue. Abuse of power. Yeah, I think just abuse is tragically the best one. And then you can add. And so let's do reporting or mandatory reporting. And I suppose that would catch, no, that wouldn't catch each one. So let's see what happens in here. So this is just psychology as a discipline. So the other one was looking at societies, another one was looking at public policy. This one's just looking at psychology. And there might be case studies. Ooh, falsely accused clergy. Reporting abuse. When is that from? That's from 2018. How do you know if it's peer-reviewed? You can. Do references available? Some of them have a peer-reviewed button. I don't think we necessarily see that. So if you're wondering, a lot of these, the majority of them are going to be peer-reviewed, but let me know if there's one that you really like and you need me to check. Some of the other databases have peer-reviewed checkbox, so that's easier to work with. What you can also do is, if you want to see what's happened more recently, and see if this trims it down. Oh yeah, there's only 2 published in the last 4 years. What do we do when we find one that looks pretty good? So this one kind of looks at it openly instead of analyzing the law itself. Ooh, child protection. We go through and we look for, so there's reporting practice. So I'm just looking at the abstract. And you can see maybe there's like theories that work with it, reporting practices. I think we've captured a lot of the keywords. Okay, let me show you another database. Oh, and on these, by the way, when you go into these, they all have a citation generator right here, and they're usually wrong. So imagine you're doing APA. Oh, that one actually got it right. So beware that you have to double check these. And you can also email yourself an article. If you can't get the full text of an article, you click on this Find It, View It button. But email me if there's like an article that you can't track down, even though it says we have access to it. So let's do this same search. Let me show you a different database. And this will be the last one I show you. This video is getting long enough already. So I would recommend this one. Maybe all these 3. I would cruise through and just look for clergy and abuse. And then if it's got a big body of literature, then you can narrow it down with those other keywords. This one maybe. This one most definitely. This one most definitely. This one possibly. But these last 2 down here. Once you're solid on what your keywords are and you want to narrow down your search, so you had to find 10 peer-reviewed sources. So hopefully you can find like 20 or so and just go by what you find in the title and the abstract and try and make a narrative. So you might find like the history of it, interventions or talking about specific populations. You could talk about like the pros and cons of it. You could look at it from a religious perspective. Or you could look at it from a government perspective. All these different things a legislator would look at, the different constituencies that they're working with. I'm happy to help with that too. But try and have each article be like a stepping stone, one of those bridges that goes across the precipitous valleys that The Rock shows up in films for. So, last one. Scopus and Web of Science are both similar in that they look at the top tier journals, but they allow you to search by the number of times something has been cited. And on this one, you can add a search field too. So I'm going to do clergy and child abuse. And I'll just do reporting. That was pretty good. So out of these 24, oh man, oh, look at that. There's Muslim victims. I'll be darned. So clergy covers there. Wow. So do you see this cited by over here? That means if an article is so important that this one couldn't be published unless they cited this one, that's impact. That's how people get grants and streets named after them and Nobel Prizes and things like that. You can sort by the number of times cited. And so arguably, these are in order of the articles that made the biggest difference in the field. Oh, I didn't think about victims. I mean, victims is the name of a population. Reporting child abuse. And what you can do is if you find something that's really good, and you're like, oh yeah, that's great, you can click on these 28 and say, okay, what has happened? And here's Rabbi. So you may have the opportunity to get way too much and then narrow it down. That's a good thing. And you can sort that by number of times cited too. Okay, let me know how it goes. This is a lot of information, but you should be able to dig around. And as you save an article and as you grab a citation, try and make a narrative of like what point each article makes. And it will be really easy for you to do this. You just go, I mean, really easy, Dale says. But when you go in, the abstract will tell you, the authors will do this, they'll make the abstract have some of their main points. Oh, yeah. The effect of being abused by a rabbi changed their attitudes towards other rabbis, which makes a lot of sense, but this is the evidence suggests it's not just anyone's opinion anymore, but it's set up with objective data. So just look for little elements like that, and then you could start to build your bibliography, and then pretty soon you'll be able to get into your narrative, and the paper will write itself, right? Well, let me know how it goes. Bye-bye.